Happy Wednesday, y'all. Welcome to lesson 3. I hope you all have a great day today. Get outside and enjoy it at some point. So today we're going to continue learning about volume, continue our exploring. Remember, we've been working on building and counting our cubic units inside of our rectangular prism. So today we're going to take that a little bit further. Now, if you were in class today, we'd be using the cubes again, but since you're home, we're going to have to visualize and use models a little bit more. So try your best, and we'll get there together. So we're going to compose and decompose our models using layers. So remember, we first find the area, the bottom layer, and then we start counting up how many layers we have. Well, let me just minimize my face so I'm not distracting. And so today when we have our, and bear with me because this was better than I expected on that one. This one's not as good. So when we have our rectangular prisms, we can cut it. Oh, let me use a different color. We can cut these rectangular prisms in layers in a couple different ways, right? We could cut it like a loaf of bread, right? With slices like that. So we could have layers like that, or more like a cake, right? So we could have layers like a cake and we could build up like this. Well, there's also one other way we could probably cut it. We could cut layers, the long layers like this, right? So we're going to be thinking about layers inside of our rectangular prism. So we're going to find the area of one layer and then start counting up on those layers. So I sent you all home, hopefully, with lesson 3. If you weren't here yesterday, I'll have the materials posted on Schoology, so no worries there. And just do your best. So let's go ahead and take a look at problem set 1. And I know that I asked you to take home all lesson 3 pages. The template really was supposed to be connected with the 27 cubic centimeter blocks I was going to give you. So it's going to be really hard for us to use the template today. So no template. We're going right into problem set page 1. So get this page out, please, and get your name on it. And then let's start taking a look at it and seeing what we can do with this. Let me just zoom in, zoom out, because sometimes it glitches on me. Remember to pause me at any time if I'm going too fast. I want to try to keep this video in a decent amount of time so you guys aren't listening to my voice for 30 minutes. So pause me whenever you need. And here's the directions. Number 1, use the prisms to find the volume. Okay, we can do that. Build the rectangular prism below to the left with your cubes if necessary. Well, unfortunately, I don't have cubes for you. I'm not sure if you have cubes at home. So we're not going to do that one. So unless you have cubes, then you can build them at home. We're going to decompose it in the layers in 3 different ways. So, okay, so kind of what I showed on that first slide. We're going to cut it like a loaf of bread. We're going to cut it long ways like a loaf of bread, long slices, and then we can also cut it like a cake. So that'll make more sense as we do it here. And then we'll fill in the table as we work. So what I see is I see a rectangular prism with all of the cubic units inside of it. And it looks like the unit is centimeters, so we're going to call them cubic centimeters. Okay, well, and I see 3 blank templates for us to use. Great. So it asked us to cut it in 3 different ways or 3 different layers in these 3 templates. Okay, so let's think about cutting it like a loaf of bread. So if I wanted to cut it like a loaf of bread, these are the cuts I want to make, right? So how many layers would that be? Well, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cuts. So 5 cuts makes 6 layers. So let me start in the middle, and then I want 2 more on each side. Okay, perfect. So now I've got my layers, and you can see I kind of angled them to keep the 3D shape, not just straight lines, right? And well, so I know that there's 6 layers, but how many were in each layer? Well, if I look just at that one layer, well, remember, we're not counting faces of the cubes. We're just counting cubes. So this is 1 cube, 2 cube, 3 cube, 4 cube. Let me erase those because I don't want them in our way. So we know that this was a layer of 4, this is a layer of 4, and each one of these is layers of 4, right? So if we have 6 layers of 4, well, 6 times 4, well, that's 24 cubic centimeters. So what we did is we found the area of this layer, which was a 2 by 2, right? 2 times 2, which is 4. And then we showed how many layers. Okay, well, let's think about it, thinking about cutting it like that wedding cake, right? So we're going to cut it all the way across horizontally like that. And you can see I kind of did an angle at the end to try to keep that 3D shape. Okay, well, let's start thinking about what our area for one of these layers is. Well, it was a 6 by 2, right? So 6 by 2, well, that would mean this is 12. And so this layer is 12. So we have 2 layers, and they're both have 12 in them. And that also gives us 24 cubic centimeters. Interesting. Now, this is the one that's a little harder to cut because of the way the model is. And it's that long slices, the length slices. So do your best with this. This is a little harder when it's inside of here. Whoops. Let me try that again because I got a little sideways. It'll be a lot easier with your pencils. So we know that there's, again, 2 layers. But once again, how many go into each layer? Well, we were looking at this front layer. Well, it's a 6 by 2 again, so it's 12 and 12. So it should be 24 cubic centimeters. All right, well, let's try that again over here. And I'm gonna go a little faster. First one, I wanna cut like a loaf of bread. So it looks like there's 1 cut, 2 cut, 3 cuts to make 4 layers. So 1 slice, 2 slices, 3 slices. Not the greatest on that one. I'm gonna keep it though, because I'm not here to draw perfect models. I wanna be accurate, but so I have 4 layers. And if I look at just one of these layers, right, the front layer, it's a 2 by 3. So I know each of these layers has 6 in it. And there was 4 layers with 6 in it. And let me actually back up because I don't want, oops, let me erase this part because I don't want that in our way when I start thinking about the next ones. Well, 4 times 6, well, that's 24 cubic centimeters again. Well, can we cut it in a different way? Well, this time I'm going to cut it lengthwise. All right, so this time I'm going to go right down that middle, and there's 2 layers. And if I'm thinking about these 2 layers, well, that's 4 long, 3 wide, or 3 long and 4 wide. So 3 times 4, well, that would be 12 units cubic centimeters on this side and 12 cubic centimeters on this side, or on this layer. So there's 2 layers with 12 cubic centimeters in each. And again, that's 24 cubic centimeters. Let me erase these lines over here because now I would like to go slice it like a wedding cake. Whoops, that was a bad one. So I'm cutting there. So I see 2 cuts, and that means 3 layers. So let's go ahead and model that in our template. So there's my 3 layers. Well, let's think about how many is on each layer. So let's think about this top layer. It's a 2 by 3. Nope, sorry, 2 by 4. So that's 8. And this would be 8, and this would be 8. So there's 3 layers of 8, and 3 times 8 is 24 cubic centimeters. Great job. All right. Well, let's shift on and see what the back page is. Come on, get out of my way. Perfect. All right. Ooh, this is a good question. So I'm going to use 2 different colors to help us with this one. I already know that I'm going to need 2 different colors. So I'm going to start with a light blue. All right, Josh and Jonah, J and J, were finding the volume of the prism to the right. The boys agree that 4 layers can be added together to find volume. Josh says that he can see on the end of the prism that each layer will have 16 cubes on it. Jonah says that each layer has 24 cubes in it. Explain how you know using words, numbers, or pictures. Well, we know that we can cut it in a couple different ways. So we could look at that layer, or one of the boys could be looking at the top layer like that. right? So let me get rid of those lines. Let's look at this one first. Well, I see a 4 by 4. So that says that each layer will have 16 cubes on it. So if we think about a vertical layer, or the vertical cuts, which make these layers, well, then we're going to have 16 cubes in that. So that's a 16. This would be a 16. This would be a 16, 16, 16, 16. Okay. Well, then how could the one Jonah be saying that there's 24? Well, let's look at the top layer. Well, that's a 4 by what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 by 6. Well, 4 by 6, and if I counted all those cubes, that would be 4 times 6 is 24. So who's right? Well, they're both right. They are both right. It just depends on, they are looking at different layers, right? And so when they're looking at different layers, and this is, and I'm not, my screen's flipped up straight up, so it's really sloppy writing. I know that. It's not as easy to write with my screen straight up. So they're both right. They're looking at different layers. One's looking at the layers that are like a cake. The other's looking like layers that are like a slice of bread. So they're both right because as long as they're counting their layers, now they're both right in the sense of how many are in a layer. But we got to come back up here and say the boys agreed that the 4 layers can be added together. Oh, wait. So maybe they're not both right. So this is 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 layer, 5 layer, 6 layer. Ooh, that's okay. And this is 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 layer. So who's right? Because I kind of messed that up by not remembering that first sentence, but we went back and looked at it. So they're both right, looking at different layers, but we could add to this sentence to correct what I just did. But Jonah, right? Jonah, yeah, Jonah's the one that was looking at the 4 layers. Again, I'm sorry about my writing over here because of my pen. But Jonah is looking at the 4 layers. So my apologies on the sloppy writing, but do you see what we're talking about? Well, they're both right in terms of how many are in a layer, but who's looking at the correct layers? Well, Jonah was, because they talked about looking at the 4 layers. All right, Marcos makes a prism 1 inch by 5 inches by 5 inches. Then he decides to create layers in his first one, equal to his first one. Fill in the chart and explain how you know the volume of each prism. So if I was trying to kind of visualize this, and I have my prism, I could say that it's 1 by 5 and then by 5 again, right? Because it's 1 by 5 and then 5 inches tall. So if we think about that, we know that this is just 1 unit right here. Oops, let me get my pen tool out again. But there would be 5 layers this way, and I can't fit them all in. But, and then there would be 5 layers this way. Okay, so if there's 2 layers, he decides to create layers. Oh, so this is his first layer, and then he decides to create layers equal to this. So he's going to keep adding on to this. So yeah, if he has 2 layers, let me pause this because this one's confusing me real quick. Yeah, I was right. First, let's think of the volume of this shape right here. Well, if we think about, let me change my color again. I did start recording again, right? Yeah, good. 1 times 5, well, finding the bottom layer will be 5 square units, right? But now we're going up 5. So if we multiply, and there's 5 layers of 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. So whoops, come on. We know that the units cubed, every layer that we built is 25 units cubed. So if we have 2 layers, 2 25s, well, that will be 50 cubic. And I said units in the picture, but they actually said inches, so cubic inches. And what would our explanation be? Well, each layer, again, my apologies for sloppy writing because of this screen being upright, 25 inches cubed. All right, well, if there's 4 layers, 4 25s, 4 quarters, 4, right? No, that's 100 inches cubed or cubic inches. You could do each one. I'm not gonna write but it's 4 layers of 25 inches cubed. 7 layers, so 25, well, I know 4 would give us 100, so let me start there. That's 7 is 3 more groups than 4, so that would be 175. And I'm gonna just keep writing it a little different every time. We can say cubic inches or inches cubed, and that's 7 layers of 25 inches cubed. Great. All right, imagine the rectangular prism is 6 meters long, 4 meters tall, and 2 meters wide. Draw horizontal lines to show how the prism could be decomposed into layers that are 1 meter in height. Okay, so 6 meters long. Let's label our model. 4 meters tall and 2 meters wide. Draw horizontal lines to show how the prism can be decomposed into layers that are more than 1 meter high. Well, horizontal, so left to right. So when I look at this, it says 4. Well, that tells me that there's 4 layers left to right, which would make 3 cuts. Well, so it has 4 layers from bottom to top or top to bottom. And each one of those layers is, because it's 4 meters, and they said each one's 1 meter in height, so 1, 1, 1, and 1, right? Which 4 groups of 1 is 4. So each horizontal layer contains how many cubic meters? Well, we're looking for one of our, let me change color so we can actually see what I was drawing. We're looking for one of our layers. Well, one of our layers is a 6 by 2. So what would be the area of one of the layers? Well, that would be 12. So we know each layer is 12 cubic centimeters. And if we have 4 groups of 12, you can't do that in your head. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4, 48. So the volume is 48. Should I leave it as 48? Nope. So we want to say either meters cubed or 48 cubic meters. All right. So now I'm going to just pull open my exit ticket real quick so we can all look at it together. And, I didn't rename it, so I think it's this one. Yeah. All right. So it looks like, whoops, come on, Mr. Briggs. Looks like you have 2 questions to do. It's asking you to use this first model to count the cubes and the layers. Make sure you're not counting the faces. You're counting cubes and looking for layers. And then it's asking you to draw on the bottom one. All right, do your best. Let me know if you need my help, and good luck today. Have a great day, guys.